Welcome back, and in today's video I'm going to show you how you can get some images for your icons in the game for Deadside mods. So first let's go ahead and take a look at some of what I got going on here. So you can see I got my armor, my different armors and my icons for my helmets, and my generator here. I'll show you how to get consistent pictures for these icons. That's the goal of today's video. Um, so yeah, that's going to be the goal of today's video. So first thing you're going to want to do is, you don't have to do it this way. You can make a new map or like an empty map or whatever you want. But just in the test map, since I'm going to be testing everything in here anyway, and this sandbox is already set up for use, I decided to just throw, as you can see here, some walls down. So what you'll want to do is set up a photo booth, kind of like what I did. This is what I call my photo booth over here. So if you want to, you could place an actor, drag in a cube or whatever, and over here in this actors panel. And then you'll resize it to what you feel is appropriate for what you need. I believe the one I got, I'm going to delete this because I don't need it. But the one I got is, yeah, it's 20 by 10 by 1. So, for the base. And then this one is 20 by 10 by 20. Or 20 by 1 by 20, sorry. And the same with this wall here. So, you don't have to get too fancy. I just set up 3 walls. And you can expand this how you want. So as you can see here, I got some objects floating here. And this is for taking the photos, and I'll show you how to do that here in a second. But what you'll want to do to set up your photo booth is start off with getting your camera. So if you go over here, I believe it's in cinematic, so just drag yourself in a camera, boom. I don't need that because I already got some set up, and I just copy and paste them as I need it. And then you'll need the object you're trying to get an image for. So in today's instance, we're going to use my generator. So you don't want to drag in the blueprint for this. So if you're getting a picture of, like, say you want your blueprint, or a picture of your generator, right? You're making a generator in this instance, right? Or whatever you're making, but you get the picture. You don't want the blueprint, so you don't want to just drag this out, because you see there's all that other stuff like the bounding box and all that fun stuff, blocking box, all the extra data that comes with an object that is set up for use, right? So you want to find the actual object, like just the object. So first things first, you're going to open up your generator or whatever you're working with, right? And you'll go over here to static meshes, and then you'll just find that mesh, right? So whatever mesh you're working with, and then you'll just whip that in there real quick. Boom, boom. And you'll set it up how you want it. You could take your time with this. I'll show you how mine's already set up, but we're going to use this as an example. So we'll drag this in. And as you can see, it doesn't have none of the bounding boxes or anything, or any of the stuff associated with the blueprint. It's just the object itself. So we'll go ahead and just set this up like we was going to take a photo of it. So we'll drag it over here. If you click spacebar, you can rotate. And if you click spacebar again, you can scale it and all that, but you don't want to do that. You don't need to scale this. So then just click again, and you'll get back to this, where you're in transform mode, where you're moving it. So, yeah. Now we'll take one of these cameras here, and we'll just Control C, Control V, and then we'll drag this up to the position of our object. And now you could consider this good if you wanted. This is actually kind of perfect right here. Or you could, you know, do the same thing. You could rotate the camera or whatever, get it positioned how you want. But keep the camera and the object in the same position. That's why you see I got all these just floating objects here. Because I want them to stay in the exact same position every time I update or add a new texture or whatever. So, like, for instance, with helmets and, like, you know, guns and gear that you're probably going to end up changing textures for a lot or adding new ones to your list of textures, you're going to want to just leave it set up like this. So just keep adding objects as you go along, you know. Your photo booth will get messy and you may have to expand it eventually, but this is a test map and this doesn't affect in-game, you know, when you create your mods or anything. So don't worry too much about that. It's literally just setting this stuff up for getting good photos so you have your pretty icons and all that stuff. Or as pretty as you can get them, you know. They don't have to be perfect, but if you want consistency, this is how you do it. So we think this camera's good, right? We're just going to say that this is good, right? And we're going to make sure we're back in transform mode just in case. So we no longer need that. We could just go ahead and boom, whip that out the way. So what you'll do is you'll go here into perspective mode here and you'll pick your camera. Now we duplicated a camera and mine's going to be 5 in this case because that's the last camera, so the numbers will just keep going up. Make sure also that while you don't forget that when you're done in here to click this little eject icon here, because if not, when you scroll around on the map or you move your camera around, it'll actually move this camera object, and you don't want that. You want to keep it in the same position. So when you think you got it set up where you want it, this is how you're going to do it. Now, a couple things. If you're going to do it in the test map like I'm doing it, you're going to want to shut some of this stuff off over here. Because you could see, like, you see this bounding box. That's for an object down here. So, you're going to want to shut off directional light. And I'll explain that in a second. And down here, you're going to want to shut off this base thing. I think this only shows up because I have a base on the test map. So that's like the bounding box or the property line for that object, right? And it shows up through stuff, and you don't want that in your image. So you want to make sure you shut that off. Because if you don't, then you'll actually see that in the camera. In this particular one, you're not really seeing it, but like, in like one of these other ones, you definitely will. So just to make sure this doesn't show through when you're taking your image, just shut that off. So scroll down and find the bounding box for that. You could shut off all this crap too if you want. You know, nav meshes and all that stuff. Depending on where you set your photo booth up at. It's going to depend on what you're going to want to shut off. You could also shut off the water too. And that would take out its bounding box as well. But you don't necessarily have to do that for everything. Really just for like base property lines and stuff that show up. Anything that shows up through here, you're going to experiment, see what you need to shut off. But you don't have to shut everything off. It's not like a mandatory requirement. Just shut off the stuff that, you know, like I said, this object here. Because that will show up in your viewport when you're going to snap your image. So anyway, off of the side tangent here, we're going to go into Actor 5, which is this camera. And what you could do, this is how I do it. The way I was doing it was I would just snap to the camera and go into the camera's perspective, and then we would hit print screen, and then that brings up your snipping tool, and then we would just drag a box to create our image, right? So anyway, but what I do is I enter the camera's perspective, right? And then I eject from it. And this puts me like this, right outside of the camera. And then I go ahead and grab my snipping tool and grab the photo. And then you'll have a folder ready. Make sure you have a folder ready somewhere, like I do right here. And then you'll just right click and paste. And there you go. Now you have your image. But one more thing before we get to the actual snapping the photos, which we already just covered. But what you're going to want to do to get the photo of your object, right? And fuck you, Unreal. I don't care. You're going to want to click on this object here, and you're going to want to go over here and change it to your material. So in this case, it's like DP Gen, I think, or something like that. I don't even remember. Generator. And let's see. Here we go. I think that's it, right? Yeah, that's it. Okay. So yeah, make sure you remember which texture, it is that's associated with it. But then you'll just see how I got the object selected right now. You want to make sure that you click on it and then hit escape so those little arrows ain't there, because that'll show up in your picture as well, and you don't want that. So now that you got your textures, you got your camera distance and all that stuff set up, you're set up the way you want. This will be consistent every time. So you'll just come up here, you'll snap to your camera, you'll eject from it, and then you'll be in the exact same position every time, right? So then you'll do your print screen, you'll take your image, and then you'll bring this over here, and then you'll right click, and then boom, there you go, you got your image for that. As you can see, my last one, it looked like a clown threw up on it, but that was just for when I was making the stuff. I didn't particularly care at the time, so I slapped an image together and kind of just, went with it. I was more concerned with getting the generator working the way I wanted it to. I was less worried about the textures at the time. So now you got your image. We're going to go ahead and I'll show you how you would edit this. So we'll go ahead and open that image back up that I just took. So I believe it was this one. This is the image I just took. So if you're using paint.net, you can use paint.net or GIMP. I'll show you both real quick. So in paint.net here, what we're going to do is we're going to select this magic wand tool, select this background, and delete it. That way then you get a clear background. And then we're going to do the same with this section, this section, this section. And just do this for all the little sections where you notice this little gray, because you want this to be fully transparent in all the places it should be transparent, right? So just get rid of all that, and as you can see, it's very nice right now. So you could just see this here. And again, this is going to be for a sprite image for your icons, right? For in your hotbar and in your menu and all that stuff. So in the case of this generator, this is going to be an 80 by 60. So create yourself a new 80 by 60 image for your sprite. And then go ahead and open that up. And then we'll box select, delete to make this all transparent. Then we'll go back over here. We'll zoom out a little bit on this. And then we'll box select again. And then we'll Control C. Come back to this image, Control V. Keep canvas size. And then we're going to go ahead and just drag this up until it's about the size of the box. And then we'll adjust this accordingly to make it look the way we want. So in this case, I think this looks fine. You could move this over a little bit if you wanted, center it more, but I think it looks fine like that. It'll look blurry, but don't worry about that because it's a small icon in game. It'll look a lot better. So that you'll just save, you'll go ahead and save it, and you'll name it something. So gen_sprite _dp_purple, or whatever you're naming or whatever you're doing, Make it something so it's easy to find, and make sure that it has enough information that it's easy to find in the list whenever you're associating stuff, because it's a pain in the ass when you just name it, like, for instance, purple, there's other objects in the game that are purple. You might find 500 different, images with purple in the name. So name it something that you're going to be able to find with a couple keystrokes when you're going to look for it, right? So we'll save that as a TGA, and that's it. And boom, there we go. Now we've got our new sprite in here somewhere. Um, this one here. Or this one, actually. This is it. Yeah, it doesn't show the images because stupid GIMP, but, you know, whatever. But yeah, if we open this up, this will open in GIMP. And you'll see it right here. If we go up to like 800%, yeah, you'll see that's the image we just made. So, yeah, anyway. And we'll go ahead and close that down. So now we'll do the same thing in GIMP. So we're not going to close this because I'm still working with some of that stuff that's in there. Now we've got our image. We can go ahead and open that same one that we just created. And GIMP. So we'll go ahead and we'll take our new image here and we'll open with GIMP. And then basically you're going to do the same thing. You got the magic wand tool here. You're going to select this. Make sure that everything is outlined properly. You want to make sure that this is just outlining your object, and then you can go ahead and do the same thing. Hit delete. And you're going to want to make sure that, again, this is selecting just what you want, because the tolerance can be a little wonky, you know. Let's zoom in a bit for that one because, okay, I wanted to make sure we got it. We'll go ahead and delete that. We'll go over here, delete that. We'll delete that. And we'll delete there, and we'll delete there. Well, in this one here, we might have to adjust this just a bit. Maybe a bit further. We'll try like 20. There we go. And that should be it, right? And then you would go ahead and do the same thing for this, you know, nothing fancy. You're going to go ahead and create yourself a new, and then you're going to want to set your width and your height 80 by 60. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're just going to use rectangle select in here. We're going to have to switch because I got it on ellipse mode right now. But if we go hit R, it'll go back to rectangle. And then we'll just select that and backspace. And there's a problem with doing that on here. This is why I use paint.net. You can't exactly just do that with these images. It doesn't give you transparency like that. You actually have to go over here and do this to fix that. So yeah, probably don't rectangle select in here, just set the transparency here. And then what we're going to do is the same kind of principle over there that we did here. We'll rectangle select this object, and we want to make sure that rounded edges are off. I had them on for something else I was doing. Line this up with your image so that then you get the whole image. And then go ahead and Control C, come over here, Control V, and then we're going to need to scale this down. So I think we're going to, actually, can we just, no. I haven't used this one to do this with, so just bear with me because I actually haven't used this for this. So yeah, I got to figure out how to actually scale this now. So you'll learn with me because I've never actually done this in GIMP. That's cropping. So let's see. There's got to be a way to, here we go, scale. So Control and S. So there we go. And yeah, we want to, are we in scale mode? That's what I would need to make sure of. We'll make sure we're Control Z, make sure that's normal, and then we'll Shift S and make sure that we're in scale mode, and then we'll scale this down and drag this up over yonder. And then we'll zoom up in here. We'll go like 400. Go back over to scale and get this sort of more lined up here. And then we can grab it and move it into frame. And there we go. And we got ourselves a nice image. And you could do the same thing here. Now in GIMP, you're going to go to export as, and then you'll name it. So in this case, we want this to be, you know, GIMP, you know, whatever. And I'll just name it 01 just to be quick with it. And then we'll hit export, and then we'll export. And there we go. Now we'll have that image over there. We could just discard. We don't need to save. And we could just discard. We don't need to save because we already made what we wanted. So now we'll go ahead and we'll open up that image that we just made. And there it is. That's that image. So now if we scroll up 800, you can see that's the image we made. And if I drag this over here, you can't really see it, but we could open this with a different photo tool. It won't let me open it with paint.net or I'm sorry, image glass, but yeah, that's fine, I guess. But we could open it in paint.net, you know, whatever. Don't save. That's the one I just made earlier. We don't need none of that. That's the original image from earlier. We don't really need that. So yeah, there you go. And then you got those images now, and you can drag in your sprite and start setting up your sprite. Now if you follow my first video, then you already know how to do this part, so I don't really need to cover it, and I don't intend to cover it in this. I was just showing you how to set up a photo booth so you could get your images more consistent. So you'd go in here, snap, then you're going to go ahead and print screen and drag over the item that you want. There you go, and there's your image, and you'll get more consistency that way. You know, you'll have to get consistent with dragging your box, but really when it comes to editing it, all you got to do is just make sure you fit it in the frame the way that you want it to be, and try and be consistent with fitting it in the sprite image whenever you create the sprite image like this here. So just try and make it fit into the same amount. You know, use the like little squares, you know, checker pattern as a guide or whatever, to make it the same size and width for all of them. So then if your image is a little bit like different in the size of the square, you know, one's a little bit more rectangular or whatever, you could just like, you know, fit it in there the way you need it to be. So try and keep consistency that way, you know, but this will help you get better, more consistent images for your sprites though. And then you could drag it in. I already got stuff in here, so I'm not worried about it, but yeah, you could drag it in, and then you'll end up with something that looks like similar to this here, you know. It'll look pretty clean, you know. It doesn't look like half-assed or, you know, have a shitty icon or something, you know. It's about as good as it could get. Now, we shut off directional light, and the reason we did that is, I'll actually show you real quick. So if we go ahead and we turn on the directional light, let's see, where's that directional light at? Right here. You see how the lighting is hitting off of there? You don't really want that in your images. It might fuck up trying to like cut out those sections when you're trying to make it transparent in the background, for one. And for two, this just looks kind of silly, you know. You don't want your images having that glare effect in them, you know. So definitely shut that off. So make sure you find your directional light in here and shut it off. And then you'll get a nice clean image. So yeah, that's really it. I kind of rambled on about it a little bit, but it's okay. I was trying to give a good example. That way then you understand how to make your sprite images better. And this is true for, you know, whatever you're doing, any of the sprites you're trying to do. Like I said, you know, armors, you know, vehicles, whatever you're modifying, you know, weapons, all that stuff. And as you can see, I've already set up some of the things that I've been working with. Now, because I already got a generator, I no longer need that, and I don't need that. So I'm going to delete those because I already have one for my generator. So if I make new textures, I could just go ahead in there and just, select this camera. That's camera actor 2. Go over to the perspective, camera actor 2, eject, and there we go. Now I got myself set up exactly the way I want to be every time. So yeah, that's how you'd set yourself up a little photo booth so that then you're getting some consistent images for your sprites and for yeah. That's really all you need to know for that. I'm not gonna go on any longer, but yeah, if this helps, cool. Also, check us out on Dr. Pepper's PvE. We're in. I've opened a Deadside server, so yeah, go ahead and join us there. All my mods will be there first. Um, you know, I do release them publicly, so they can be used on other servers. I'm not like a greedy bastard or anything. Like I want my mods to be used and seen and whatnot. But like, yeah, check us out. I'd appreciate the support. You'd be supporting me a lot by coming and checking the server out. You don't gotta. I don't want money. I don't want none of that shit. Maybe you subscribe. But support us by coming and checking out my server. I'm paying for it, so I want people to play on it. And if you want to see what kind of new shit I'm cooking up, yeah, stop by. And every time there's new mods installed, you'll get to see them there first, because I make sure as soon as I publish a mod, I put it on my server and update it. So anytime there's an update to a mod or I make a new mod, it's on that server. So yeah, Dr. Pepper's PvE, check us out there. And yeah, have fun with the game and modding, and see you in the next one.